So I'll start this out. This is oral interviews for the Franklin Historical Society. We're interviewing Hugh and Cynthia Gates. The interviewer is Brian Rainville. And we're going to be talking about Franklin.
We're going to be talking some Franklin history. All right. It's a pleasure to have you folks over here. I love that you arrived by four-wheeler and lawnmower.
It's a long trip.
It is a long trip, but I sense it's a trip that you make pretty frequently.
Yeah, I guess so.
How often are you over here in a week, Hugh? How often are you here at the homestead?
Half a dozen, 8, 10 times.
Yeah, yeah. And how far does that lawnmower go in a week, Cynthia?
I don't know. It depends on the weather.
So if the weather is good, how many lawns are you taking care of?
Probably 5.
Help me out. That's your place.
Jackie Lewis across the street,
Yeah.
the churches,
Mm-hmm.
Franklin Telephone Company,
Yeah.
and they've got quite a bit here, there, and everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes the cemetery.
Maple Grove up on Middle Road. Now I have to ask Cynthia, you have a lot of things you could be doing. Why are you mowing lawn?
I love it. My daughter asked me, she says, "Oh, Mom, you work so hard," and I said, "I'm not working, I'm having fun."
Which segues into where I really am intrigued with this interview, which is how you build community. You folks have been pillars of this community for a long time. And it's not just mowing that lawn, it's how that Veterans Park looks. It's how that cemetery looks. What do those places mean to you?
Well, the Veterans Park, not too much. I didn't have too much to do with that, I don't think. That was something he did. But up the cemetery, I do go up there quite a bit. My primary job right now has been mowing the parking lot. I haven't mowed a lot of, because my granddaughter's been
We
mowing.
have a granddaughter who's been mowing it for 3 or 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, she's going to get a job now. She's got a job,
She's a college graduate.
so she's going to go to work. So, but I've been doing the parking lot up there, and telephone company has that farm on the corner.
Right.
And that takes me probably at least 2 hours up there. And Jackie's over here. I don't know. In my own, sometimes Kim's, she gets behind.
You see a lot of history from that mower.
I don't know about that.
Well, when I think of those monuments and when you go up Middle Road, the history of the community is right there in that Maple Grove Cemetery from our very first settlers.
Yeah. They're in the back, we're going to be
They're
in the front.
back. They're in the back.
We're going to be in the front.
Did the road go the other way at some point?
We're not certain. We really, I don't think it did. I think the reason the stones were headed towards the west was because that was traditional.
Oh.
But then they bought the land on the east end of the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my grandfather who was with some other men. And at that time, they turned the stones around and headed them towards the road.
Okay, okay.
Or they didn't turn the stones around, they just, the new stones.
Right, right. Place the new ones a little differently. Your family is so deeply rooted in Franklin history and rooted in service to Franklin. I think of military service. I think of town government, of state government. What is it that motivates folks to do those things? It'd be pretty easy to sit at home and enjoy a book in the shade and not have to be on that mower how many days a week?
Well, I would like to say that, you know, Hugh, when we were in the service, they would ask him where he was from. And it was never Vermont, it was Franklin, Vermont. It was always Franklin, Vermont, and we were always going to come back to Franklin, Vermont. And so we did, and then things started to when this dream of a homestead popped up, I don't remember, but of course we farmed for a while. We had a electric light company, telephone company, farm, and eventually they all went, except the telephone company stayed, thanks to our daughter.
How do you juggle 3 businesses and 4 daughters?
Well, I guess I didn't think about it. I did what I had to do with the girls and all. I worked on the farm a lot. I milked the cows. I drove the tractors.
Mm-hmm.
And telephone company, I didn't do a lot with it. But, light company he sold. I didn't do much. The only thing I did with the light company was when the power went off.
Mm-hmm.
It was my job to sit by the phone
Oh.
and answer the calls while they were out. He was out trying to fix the lines. And when they first started coming in, they were very friendly.
Mm-hmm.
But the second time they called back, they weren't quite so. Third time they called, they were not very happy at all. They had to milk their cows and the power was still off. And oh my goodness, I made a list. I wrote them down the time they called, and when the second call and the third call. And we didn't have any communications for me, so I didn't know where he was. But I said, they're fixing it. They're working on it. So, yeah, that was my job.
Nice. Nice. You're born in a neighboring community, right? How'd you meet this gentleman?
I'll tell you. I met him in Abercorn, Quebec. I've been up there with some friends.
Mm-hmm.
He was up there with some friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we met.
And how did that take you into military world and out of Vermont?
Well, he was in the service.
Mhm.
He was home on leave from the Naval Academy.
Okay. Okay.
And we ended up riding the same train back because I got off in Connecticut and he went on to Baltimore and got off in Baltimore. And yeah, that's how we met.
Nice. Hugh, how does a guy from Franklin, Vermont find his way to Annapolis? That's a big dream.
Well, I was just following my brother, and my brother's wife had told me that I couldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to do it. And it's a challenge, I guess. But it was a good education. Uncle Sam paid for, and I only had to work 5 years for him to pay him back. And
But you were in reserves too?
well, I did 5 years of active reserves after that. But
Well, the first time he applied for Annapolis, he graduated from high school at 16. He really probably didn't want a 16-year-old anyway. So he went to the University of Maine for a couple of years.
Oh, okay.
And then he reapplied.
Gotcha.
maybe that's what got me through, because I got a little prep work.
Yeah, he wouldn't have lasted as a 16-year-old. They probably knew that, he was too young.
That's a lot. I shook the Gates family tree a little bit last night. I pulled Martha's book out. I could not find an American conflict where there were not members of your family in uniform. From the American Revolution right on through. The Gateses aren't afraid to be in military service. What is it about this family that you folks are so devoted to your country and to cause?
Well, I don't know about my grandfather's generation before them. I don't seem to recall many flags on Gates monuments in the back of the cemetery. But my father was sincerely a military man, and I guess he just instilled it in my brothers and my sister.
And your sister was Women's Army Corps during World War II?
Yeah.
When she graduated from college, she was a nurse, or she went into as a nurse, physical therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was one of the few women.
And a brother that was a pilot?
David,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he has a son that was a pilot, a grandson that's a pilot.
I did struggle a little with the genealogy because the names, the same names are honored over and over, and it gets a little challenging. But there's a general there in the family tree somewhere, right?
Not that I know of.
Married into the family, General Davis,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
he
like
married
my-
our aunt. Yeah.
and longtime summer resident of Franklin, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. When I think of the Franklin that you've seen over the years, what surprises you, and what would you change given a choice?
Wow. What surprises us? I don't know. I guess the whole world surprises me. This modern technology, I never got a hang of that. And the speed at which our society and our economy, our government, our whole world seems to want to go. It's going too fast for me. But our little town is,
Well, the thing that boggles my mind is the prices of houses. We bought our whole farm for, I forgot what now, but my goodness. You pay for that farm, 10,000? 10,000 for the house, and
I don't remember.
10,000 for, I think we paid 25,000 for
But
the house and
the inflation
farm.
is,
And today, they're talking 300,000, 400,000, 600,000.
they're over $1 million now, Mom.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, I still remember Ralph Morey's auction here on the square, and Rick Patterson was struggling to get bids at, I think, $45,000 on that little house. And today, that would be a whole different ballgame. It was striking going through the book last night how many members of your large extended family are still in town. What do you think it is about Franklin that people say, this is where I want to build my life?
Well, Charlie and Priscilla had 9 kids, and they got kids up and down the street here. And I don't know, a couple of them don't live right in Franklin, but most of them do. And
Just deep roots, I guess.
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, as houses were changing over, as the homestead was opening, I was very thankful for those members of the Gates family because they came into the village and really helped to bring it back to life.
Well, we've got one, the youngest one now in the service is Kim's son.
Oh, wow.
He's Army.
I want to say Levi, am I?
Yeah.
Okay. Which branch was Wes?
Wesley
He was
was
only
Air Force.
Air
but-
Force ROTC for
Okay.
his first year or two of college,
Okay.
and then he was not able to continue.
Yeah.
And our
Okay.
daughter Amanda was in the
But
Air
his
Force.
wife was also in the Air Force ROTC, and
Okay.
she graduated and got her commission, and
Nice.
she marched with me one Memorial Day when we first got here.
Those are some of my earliest memories of Franklin. You were still in a white uniform marching on Memorial Day.
They don't fit anymore.
No, not for a long.
They don't fit anymore.
Well, I'm talking the 70s.
And Amanda
Wow.
has a son. a submarine.
Okay. Nice. Nice.
Well, I would have had to worn the uniform, or could have worn the uniform until 68,
Okay.
because
Well,
I was still in the reserves.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I guess I got, well, when we stopped milking cows, that's when I outgrew my uniform the most.
going this time.
All right, so we're going to pick up talking to Hugh and Cynthia Gates about life in Franklin. And I would love to know a little more about Franklin Rescue and the role that organization played in this community for many years. And I remember you folks, one of you driving and one of you hopping off that rig with great speed to take care of folks. How did all that happen?
Well, we were on a lot of calls. And as the time went on, we built up with people. So it wasn't, we had, and it was in the beginning, you got a call and we'd go. So we got a call right in town and 8 people show up. So no, wait a minute. We need to have a schedule. Put people on, you know, crews. You can't have 8 people showing up in somebody's house. And so eventually we got built up enough so that we had people, a lot of people. And we had some that were just drivers, yep, but they were good help. And he was an EMT, I was an EMTI, Paul and Dick were EMTIs. And we helped with the barbecue. And we enjoyed that. And we did things with the rescue, the fire department. If they had a fire, we went. If they had a car accident, we went. And that was all part of our job. And if a car accident, they came with us. So we worked together, and it was very, very nice. And we enjoyed being together. None of us did it because we didn't want to do it. We were all volunteers. And it worked out just fine. And then when I left, Polly was in charge. And she just couldn't get people to recertify. And so there wasn't enough people to keep active.
Gotcha.
And because the state required us to test every 2 years. And people would become an EMT and they got busy, they didn't want to test, they didn't want to study. They didn't want to, and you had to get credit. So you went to this meeting and that meeting and something else to learn how to do CPR or do whatever. And they didn't have time. They were busy around town. So she couldn't keep the squad going with so few people.
Right.
And that's how it ended. And money-wise, we were doing really well because we billed people and for the calls, and we worked together with the fire department and enjoyed it very much. We thought they enjoyed us, but maybe not.
No, it's strictly a matter of just not enough volunteers, the next generation, I guess. And the time requirement and the training requirements and everything, it's difficult to maintain. We just couldn't do it.
Yeah, it was tough to
But
keep everything rolling.
There must have been an awful lot of meals missed and conversations interrupted when those pagers went off over the years.
Yeah, I can tell you a story. I ran off, got a call, and away I went. And I had left some hot dogs thawing out. Nice big hot dogs. And I got back and I said, "Did you guys have the hot dogs?" He says, "Well, all we could find was 2 skinny little hot dogs in the refrigerator." And I said, "What happened to those 4 or 5 hot dogs I had thawing out?" Well, we had a dog. She found those hot dogs. Wesley was staying with Hugh. He said, all we could find, Wesley always loved hot dogs. He said, all we could find was 2 skinny little hot dogs. And I had 2 skinny little hot dogs. I had 4 or 5 thawing out. The dog, that was the end of the hot dogs. Because I went on a call. Yeah, in the middle of the night, too. Rain, sleet, snow, 30 below, it didn't matter. And that's part of the job.
How's an ambulance handled in lousy weather? What's it like to be behind the wheel of one of those?
Once I became an I-Tech, I did very little driving.
Okay.
Enosburg, it was the Enosburg 16 years I was at Enosburg. They finally got an ambulance with chains. I guess they let them down or something. So that worked. But we got stuck sometimes. People wouldn't plow their driveways. And it's tough to, and you couldn't get the ambulance in, so you had to go knee-deep snow. And then you're going to lug somebody out, you know, and we got stuck a few times, yeah.
An interesting story that starts with a surplus Cadillac, right?
Yep. From there we went to the van type.
Okay.
And that lasted quite a while, different vans. And then finally we had money enough to buy a big box. That was a pleasure to work in. You had room enough for all your stuff, and room enough for a crew. And could take 2 patients if you had to. And, yeah.
Nice.
And we paid for it. We had enough to pay for it.
And I think I remember a picture of Lake Carmi on the side.
Yeah. Yeah, we had that put right on the side.
Nice.
Yeah.
How do you keep community organizations vibrant given all the demands on people today? And Hugh, I'm thinking of your Felco board, which has been through a few incarnations. How do you keep these organizations that are the center of what happens in a town and what a town does alive and well?
Well, I think you said Felco, but I think you meant the homestead.
Thank
part.
you. Yep.
And I guess it's getting to be more and more of a problem, but when we started the homestead, there was more community, I guess, anticipation, excitement, willingness. We were less mobile, I guess. We were smaller, more compact community, and but it's gotten more and more complicated. We made it more complicated on ourselves when we added that second building with more employees and the problems with
Marianne's.
Yeah, up at the carriage house.
Yep.
Yeah, a much more complex organization. Usually profit-driven, usually a large corporation involved. And here's Franklin residents taking it on and making it work.
I don't know.
Well, you come from a family tree where folks are interested in innovation. I mean, radio and electric and more recently internet. You know, I kind of watched the family ride those waves of technology.
Well, you picked up one that scares me, is the internet and all that. Thank goodness our daughter's very, very good at it and has kept the telephone company going.
Yeah, Kim has done wonders in it.
And in fact, with the internet and the fiber optics capability, the availability for our customers are pretty well unique in the state as far as that goes for the rural area service.
Is this 4 generations now for Franklin Electric?
The you got.
I'm sorry, Franklin Telephone. I'm jumping companies here. I didn't sleep well last night. I was a little nervous about today.
Electric is long gone.
Yeah, electric's long gone. But if you look at Franklin Telephone, are we at 4 generations?
At least my grandfather, and then my father, and then myself, and our daughter, and her daughters, and have helped in the office lately.
Nice.
And I was thinking, oh, I know where it was. Is we skipped a generation in there. Donald's son, Charles Winslow Gates, was the 5th generation, and Jennifer Rainack is the 5th generation.
Nice. Nice. Did a little reading last night on Governor Gates. Big proponent of roads. Big proponent of being able to move goods out to market for farms and being able to bring tourists in. That seems like it's pretty deeply rooted in Franklin soil with our lake and our farms. I'm intrigued with the role you folks have played throughout Franklin's economy. I mean, from day one, whether it's a farmers exchange, whether it's farms, whether it's technology, there's risk, there's opportunity, there's chances that were taken. And I have to wonder how Cynthia reacted when the Franklin homestead started to bubble up as an idea. Did you have a sense of where this was going to go?
Well, I had some reservations. But it was his dream. It was his dream to do this. And really, it has been good here. It has been a good place. It's not a bad place. But it's one thing after another. And that's what I was afraid of. That, you know, who's going to fix this and fix that? Well, guess who's over there all the time trying to fix something. So, and now it's the steps out here, and before that it was the septic system, and before that is the roof. And I guess they finally got somebody to put some steps in, I don't know. But I can't use the steps anymore. But it's been, what, 30 years, so, you know, things don't last.
Is Franklin Homestead your fifth child?
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess you might have.
Put it that way. Yep.
Hadn't thought about that.
I wondered, because you raised 4 and have had 3 or 4 waves of residents through this building since. It's been pretty marvelous to see how this building has functioned and how it's held the community together.
Well, this place is always full, pretty much, this place. And this is a nice room for people to do whatever they want here. It's been a community thing, yeah.
Yeah, having the Felco room available makes a nice space for us today and is a really vital community space. We've hosted many a craft fair and holiday bazaar down here, luncheons and speakers and programs of every variety. And it's just a really nice space that we're lucky to have. How do we get, and I struggled with this as a teacher, I don't have all the answers by any means, how do you get young people involved in a community so they'll make these commitments, not just to live and work here, but to be part of what happens?
You know, at one time they had Boy Scouts, but I don't think they have any Boy Scouts anymore.
They got a little. Little bit.
They do?
There's some,
I gotta go to the bathroom.
It's okay.
there's some young people that are, well, our recreation group is, I think, doing a pretty fine job of bringing the community back to active life and stuff. And I was vaguely aware that we still have some Boy Scouts in town. And it's interesting because they're a fine organization, the Boy Scouts were, and I'm sure Girl Scouts are too. But,
John and Stephanie Ho's kids are scouts.
I'm sorry?
John and Stephanie Ho's kids are scouts, and Stephanie's a troop leader or something.
Yeah, there's some really fine folks. One that's quite interesting, a family is Marshall Plouffe and his family. They only had one son, but they've got grandchildren that are pretty promising, and there's lots of good people in town. It's just they have to be asked I talked to one this morning that surprised me that she's interested in helping out in any way she could, and that's what it's been interesting because one of the things that I'm aware of, even though I'm not at town meeting, is that it's a big topic for discussion at town meeting when we've been financially pinched the last 2 or 3 years, and we've asked the town for basically assistance, monetary assistance, and they've been asking a few proper questions, and they seem to have been well satisfied with the answers that we gave to the questions, and want us to succeed. And, we've got a pretty fine board of directors that I've got one disappointment in the board of directors is that while I was not involved, we have residents, we have 23 residents of Franklin here that are 23 apartments plus those there, but these apartments are longer term, and they used to have a representative on the board of directors, and they no longer do, and that troubles me a little bit because I just have recently learned they no longer have an active residents association. And it seems, that doesn't seem right to me, but it's something the board of directors did that I didn't agree with. That wasn't the only one. If I owned it outright, I'd do a few things different, but Franklin Homestead is a non-profit, non-owned entity that's here to serve our community, and
Democracy can be a little messy. You moderated quite a few town meetings over the years.
yeah, I enjoyed that job.
What are the challenges of moderating a town meeting, and what are the rewards, Hugh?
I think the challenges is to maintain order and to run it the way it has been run for years and years with Robert's rules, and avoid people getting too excited and mad at their neighbors,
Right.
and being satisfied with the right to vote on motions that are properly made and carried out. And I enjoyed doing the moderation job.
How do you become a moderator? There must be some training somewhere.
Well, that's interesting because Jimmy Maishry, a longtime resident of Franklin that teaches at NVU, one of the subjects which he has stressed over the years is Robert's Rules of Order. And the moderator, and the meeting has to be run under those rules. And then our board of directors at the homestead operates under Robert's rules. Then everybody gets their chance to say their piece, and a motion's made, and seconded, and voted. And one of the things which in this voting process that I really admire is a secret ballot. You don't necessarily have to vote by voice vote and such, and on certain issues that secret ballot means a little bit more, and our nation sure needs to appreciate it.
Absolutely. There's a freedom of conscience there where you go in the direction you need to go in. Were there a couple of highlight moments at town meeting over the years, if you needed to pull a story or two?
Well, I really don't want to go there, but yeah, I was challenged as moderator for a long tradition of having an invocation at the start of the service, at the start of the meeting, and unfortunately, even though the tradition still exists, I believe, at the State House, and I use that as my example to try to persuade the aggrieved person. It was unsuccessful, and we no longer have an invocation, but we're still here.
Yeah. And I think that case was a really interesting example of Vermont's motto, freedom and unity. They compete. There's a push and there's a pull at work there. And it was tough to watch it play out in Franklin. But it raised some issues that have been with us as a nation for a long time.
Yeah.
What would your hopes be for Franklin? You've seen some change here. You know this community well.
We wish it well, for sure.
I've seen it, it's been growing. I've taken some ride on the back roads. I can't believe the houses that popped up horrendously.
They're
You
building,
can't see them, you can see them better in the fall after the leaves fall off or spring.
they're building some nice houses.
Nice houses, yeah. And a lot of little kids, there's a family, it's a family town. Yeah, a lot of little kids.
And
And the churches are doing well. East Franklin's got all the kids, we got all the old people.
unfortunately, the financial inability for small farms to continue operation has truly been a big changing factor here in
Yeah.
Franklin.
All the farms gone.
When I was running the electric light company here in Franklin, we had a higher percentage of farm customers than any other utility in Vermont. But now you can probably count the active farms in Franklin on one hand. I'm not certain if we got that many.
It's painful, and it's been a long time coming from the whole herd buyout onward. And yeah, I didn't want to be home on the days the cows were leaving.
The opportunity for the children of the farmers to work and learn how to work no longer exists. A few of them
Our
will,
girls all worked, Charlie's kids all worked.
but
Yeah.
even with our little farm halfway to the lake there, we used to have a hired boy, and the boys turned out to be pretty fine young men.
Yep.
And the work ethic, I guess,
I made him work.
they had it, and maybe our society is, well, we really don't want to go there, Brian.
That's okay. That's okay.
You're going to get me into my, oh dear.
That's a whole different place, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I'm a pretty opinionated fella, you know that, and
Yeah, and I'm wearing my historical society hat, so I'm going to keep that hat on. Cynthia, during the break, you were telling me you've moved 8 or 9 times over the years.
At least.
How many times in the service, and how many different locations in Franklin?
Probably the same ones. The house we're in.
And he wants to know about the service first. We started out in San Diego,
Okay.
Okay,
and then we moved to Long Beach for a very brief period
yeah.
and then we moved back to
San Diego.
well, actually, yeah, in San Diego.
Okay.
And then we moved to the New London sub-base.
Yeah.
We got 1, 2, 3, 4. And from the sub-base, we bought a house in New London.
Oh, okay.
So that was 5.
Yeah.
And then we came back and lived in the apartment.
Upstairs over the telephone office.
Thank you.
That was
Okay.
6.
Yeah.
And then we built the new house. That was our 10th wedding, 10th year of marriage.
Okay, you're talking up on the farm on the
Yeah.
hill? Yep. Okay.
And we got the lumber. We got the lumber off the farm and sawed it at Benjamin Sawmill and hired Peanut Grangery to build the house.
Yep.
And then we moved to the Pratt farm. And we were there until our daughter and son-in-law came back. And while we were at the Pratt farm, well, that's when I also got into politics
We sold our cows.
and sold our cows. And
When I was
then we
running the
moved
farm.
back to, when our daughter and her husband came back to Franklin. They lived in one of the apartments until they had they didn't have too many children. They had another child.
Right, right.
So we moved back into an apartment there. Then that was a small apartment.
Yeah.
I've lost track, but then we moved to the big apartment when my mother-in-law moved here.
I bought the house, bought the Rush house somewhere in there.
Well, we were living in the big apartment when we bought the Rush house. We bought the Rush house. Then we moved back to the Pratt house.
After Tammy and Larry left.
And then we moved back to the Rush house. So that's about 8 or 10, I guess.
That's quite a few. More.
I think it was about 12.
Yeah, okay.
You were counting?
Yeah, it was,
And you mentioned you're on the waiting list for Franklin Homestead.
I think so.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are.
Yeah, see, and now we move twice a year.
Yeah, you could go to Arizona.
True.
Go to Arizona, oh my goodness,
I
yeah.
don't know if that counts, does it?
There-
Well, you want to know about Franklin, yeah.
Well, did you go into the telephone company?
I haven't done a lot in the telephone company, and I'm happy to go there.
Well,
Well,
when we got back, would you like to know what kind of shape it was in?
Please.
Well, Charlie had his hands full. I mean, and that's why we came back, because he wanted to farm with it and run the telephone company. And the poles were not in good shape. The lines were in worse shape. And people were on party lines, 10 people, and crank phones.
Right.
And they didn't get along because they had so many fights. And so we did a big stroke of business. We decided to go to dial. And Hugh can fill me in here. And then nobody wanted to, we thought we'd go to 4-party, you know, that'd be a big change from 10-party. Well, nobody wanted to be on with anybody because they had so many fights.
I think she might be exaggerating a little bit, but there's quite a bit of truth to it. It's been an experience with the telephone company, and we've been very fortunate with the telephone company. And it was, in fact, it fits in with this thing. Part of, I think I explained to you with the Homestead interview that the telephone company had the opportunity to move into the cellular telephone business.
Right.
And my daughter Kim and I went to several meetings and decided we didn't want, and the opportunity presented itself to receive a financial benefit that we didn't anticipate and need, and we made it known that we had this vision of a community elderly housing, and fits back with that last interview we did.
Yes. When you talk about direct dial, Cynthia, we're talking from the manual switchboard over. And Franklin, do I have this right, that Franklin had the last switchboard in the state?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, she worked with us, she was with us 60 years, I think.
Ruth Doof was our faithful old telephone operator.
And she didn't want anybody telling her what to do.
Oh, no. She would let me tell her.
Well, yeah, right, but anyway, she was something else.
She was
But she had the couch in there, so she wouldn't miss a call.
Okay.
And finally Hugh had to take the books away from her because she couldn't do the bills.
Oh,
But she had a health issue.
yeah.
And while she was in the hospital, we fixed an apartment upstairs for her with a refrigerator.
And that fits in with the homestead project. Is that one Christmas I asked her what she wanted for Christmas. And she says, she says, I've got this nice little apartment, I'm warm and everything. What more could I want? And we measured the size of that apartment, and that's the size of the smallest units that are here at Homestead.
But she didn't want to go. She had a fit. She said, oh, I can't go upstairs. I said, we'll help you. And I said, we've got a nice little bathroom. The ceiling was in the tub. We fixed all that. And got her a nice little refrigerator, and she'd never had a refrigerator. She kept things on the windowsill or whatever. She fed the cats better than she fed herself. But we fixed a nice little place for her, and that's what he said. After she'd been there a while, she had everything she wanted. She didn't want anything for Christmas because she had a nice place to live.
And that little 400 square foot apartment that she's describing was the apartment that our daughter and son-in-law came back to so they could milk some Jersey cows on our little farm.
Nice.
And they had two little children when they came.
Yeah.
And somehow or other they found another one.
Another one came, and Tammy says, Mom, I can't live there anymore. The stairs and all these kids. And oh my God. So, okay, so we had to move out so they could have the fun. Oh my goodness.
You're getting our whole life history here, Brian.
Well, that's the goal. I mean, this is a chance to sit down with folks who are deeply rooted in Franklin and have a chance to learn more about their stories.
Well, it's interesting. She hardly knew about Franklin when she lived in West Berkshire.
So far away.
Well, his sister was living in West Berkshire at one time, and of course, Hugh lost his mother when he was only 12, I guess. So she wanted him to come and live with them, and he's, oh no, he says, nothing in West Berkshire for me. And she always got a kick out of the fact that he married a girl from West Berkshire.
What's it like going from West Berkshire and Franklin to California?
I like California. I was glad to leave. I would have stayed there in California.
What did you like about it?
California?
Yeah.
The weather. It was beautiful. I could get out every day. We had a little one, and he was on the destroyer there. And so he was gone a lot, put it that way. And I could get out every day. I was in Navy housing. All my neighbors had the same problems I did. And the husband's gone and little kids. And it was fine.
She took military life very well.
Yeah,
And
I liked it very much.
would have been very happy if I'd have stayed in the service. But our family got their fingers in too many pies, I guess. And my brother Charlie and his wife were the only ones back here that were, because my father died while I was at the academy.
There we go. Thank you.
And he surely had his hands full till we got back, and we kept our hands full and kept busy working and raising bigger families.
Well, I didn't mind. I like to milk cows, so I didn't mind helping to milk them. Yeah.
We haven't touched on your years in the legislature. Reflections on that time?
I enjoyed it. The only problem was I had some cows. Well, no, boy, then we'd gotten rid of our cows.
Get rid of the cows, but I had a barn full of heifers.
I enjoyed the legislative experience. I could tell several stories, but primarily I've always been interested in. My father was, my brothers were. I guess maybe that comes from the governor, but my second, well, the interesting, I can tell this story, is Franklin and Highgate, they redistricted in 1980, after the 1980 census. And changed the district that Franklin was in from being with Sheldon to being with Highgate. And our representative had been there for 8 years, I believe. And he had a piece of legislation come through there that could have affected our electric light company, and he didn't let me know about it, and I didn't learn about it till after it had been enacted. And I guess we're going to be specific. I was a Republican and he was a Democrat. But when they changed and put us with Highgate, the larger town controls the district. And the town chairman of Highgate told me that the existing representative couldn't be beat, and nobody from Highgate was going to challenge him. So I challenged him, and I ran a campaign and was straightforward, and he was too, and I was fairly effective in Highgate because I guess it could have been with our electric utility serving a portion of Highgate. Sure. And I beat him, and I feel sad because it's not fun to lose. But interestingly, it wasn't much longer after that we were best of friends again.
There we go.
And it turns out he was one of my finest and first board members for the Franklin Homestead, and we enjoyed working together for years.
Nice.
And, more of the story, if you want. I don't. The town chairman at the Republican organization in Highgate, without consulting with me during my first term, announced with the newspaper that he was running against me. And it was a surprise to me because he hadn't visited with me or talked with me. And so that second term I had to run against him in the primaries, and I beat him in the primaries, and he wanted to run as an independent to help me out to defeat the Democrat. Well, I didn't see it quite that way, but it happened, and I beat both he and the Democrat, and served a second term, and lo and behold, 2 years later, near the end of the term, he again surprised me. But by that time, the governor was a Democrat, and she had appointed a Democrat to replace the senator from Franklin County, and so I got too big for my britches, I guess. Decided to run for county senator, and that's quite a thing to do, and I didn't work hard enough. I was the winning candidate in the small towns, but in the city of St. Albans, I got my ass swamped, and Swanton also went Democratic, and so it was a blessing because by then I had to work harder with the electric company, and it's okay. But now we don't want to get into today's politics.
Yeah, we're going to leave that alone. How many years have you folks been married?
65.
Cynthia, how do you make 65 years work?
Tolerance.
And don't listen. No.
I like tolerance. I'd love a little more explanation of tolerance and what that means.
Well, he's always got something going on. Listen. I just put up with it.
Well, there's a partnership at work here. There's a team at work here, and I wouldn't want to underestimate that at all. And I would imagine there's probably days it helps to hop on the lawnmower too.
And he goes to his garden and I do the lawnmower and so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we get along. We get along good. We got two little dogs. Somebody gave us, like I said, his friend died. We got this little dog. His wife wanted me to have the dog. I tell you, he loves that little dog too.
Nice.
That little dog with him every day.
Nice.
Don't we like the old dog too?
The old dog too. Poor old dog. Yeah. Yeah.
And they go to the garden with me.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we
I
go.
told him, no, our little dog is white. I said, don't let her get in that garden. Come back, she's filthy.
You folks have been really good sports. Thank you so much for coming in. Is there anything you want to chip in at this point? Anything that's been forgotten?
We'll think of it after we hang up.
Well, that does happen.
That's the way it is with phone calls.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
How come you didn't join the military?
Oh. That's a great question. There was a little while that I thought about that early on. And then I went down the history road, which took me to places I never imagined. I've been lucky in my business. I've been able to take classes at universities and museums and historic sites all over the country. Prior to COVID, I was doing 2, 3, 4 workshops a summer. So I've been able to travel, but I looked at service differently. And for me, if you're going to teach American history and you're going to teach civics, you're trying to get that next generation ready. And one of my proudest moments, if I can blow my horn for a moment, is a few of my kids found their way to that legislature. And I'm pretty pleased with that. Getting them to understand that democracy is not a spectator sport and you need to be involved. And whether they are doctors, lawyers, engineers, farmers, firemen, actors, they're part of their community. And that was always the thing that I pushed, especially my juniors, to do, was to be invested and to be building, not just to be taking, but to be building.
Yeah.
And it's the building part, which is why I wanted to sit down with you folks today, because you've been building community well for a long time.
Well, he has. I haven't. I just.
She just helps me.
Well,
She's helped me a lot.
I see a pretty good team at work here, so thank you so much, folks.
Yep.
You're very welcome.